How's it going? We're gonna talk about Eternals today. Hey, so this is Jerome from The First Ones to Die. You know what it is. Another mini review coming at you. Shang-Chi will be around the corner at some point. I just wanted to get a chance to see it a second time. And now it's on Disney Plus. Be on the lookout for that review. But in the meantime, today we're going to be talking about Eternals. Yes! So, Eternals is the newest in the Marvel franchise. This one is about a group of eternal beings who have come back into or have been existing on Earth for millennia, watching humans grow from their infancy into the modern era, and everything is cool. You know, they're living among us, hiding in plain sight, and things change when they find out some new information and a new force rises to try and not only risk destroying the Eternals, but also destroying humanity as we know it. And so the Eternals get involved, and they're just like, not today, baby. Not today. So the Eternals is very divisive right now as far as like reviews that have been coming in from all over the spectrum. You have some people who love it, you have some people who hate it, some people who are down the middle. So I just wanted to see for myself and gain my own opinion on how I feel about it. And being quite honest, I like this movie. I think it's not bad. I had high hopes for it when I saw the trailer, especially with Chloe Zhao directing, so I was really amped up to see what she was going to bring to the table. And I'm glad to see that Marvel is willing to take risks. They're willing to take a chance on a team like this, because unlike Guardians can be fun. Even in the comics, when Guardians was being rebooted, it was still like a fun concept. It felt very big and grand, a lot of these fun characters popping up on the scene. But with the Eternals, it's much different. The Eternals are very I don't want to say boring, but they've never really taken off as a team. Even more, because even the Inhumans, have been lowbrow as far as popular Marvel teams, but the Eternals have been even lower than that. Like, people have not really felt the Eternals. So for them to take a risk doing this team, and to not only do it, but they're not doing the Marvel formula here. They're not turning them into joke characters. They're taking it seriously and making it really like the Eternals, the comic book, come to life. So it's done really well in that regard, and I'm glad Marvel gave them the green light to try it and see how it works. Maybe it might be a big success, maybe not. Now, granted, the Rotten Tomatoes score in the box office would say otherwise, but but I think this movie is fun. I think it's cool. Getting into the film, as far as the things that I like, the things I didn't like, I can say honestly that I did really enjoy the characters here. I think everyone does a great job acting wise. Just to break it down, I think the highlights for me were Gemma Chan, for sure, as Circe. I think she does a great job as Circe. She really brings a level of empathy and vulnerability to her that makes her a character you really gravitate to and latch onto as that representative of the Eternals team for humanity. She just did a great job. I also really loved Angelina Jolie as Thena. I think they tried to do something with her character where she essentially has Alzheimer's, and it is not only very inspired, it's very cool. The way it ties into the plot is also super cool as well, without spoiling too much. But the biggest thing also is how Angelina Jolie balances that. She's playing a character who is this bold, super confident, badass warrior, but at the same time is kind of scared. She's scared of herself and hurting the people she cares about, but she's also scared that she's at some point maybe it'll be better for her to not be herself, because as long as she remains the way she is, she puts the people around her at risk. And so there's so much going on with her and her character that Angelina Jolie does a really great job fleshing out through the way she plays the character. It's really inspiring, actually. It was really good. As far as the other characters, I would say each of them kind of range from good to great, you know. For example, I think Richard Madden as Icarus, fantastic. He brings a level of stoicness, I guess that's a word. He's very stoic and foreboding a little bit, as like he just stands kind of like a tower, you know. But at the same time, like there are tiny moments where he gets to kind of be a little more vulnerable, and you get to see a little bit more of what's going on behind the eyes a little bit. But he still carries this level of gravitas with him everywhere he goes, and it's really cool. Sprite, the actress who plays Sprite, whose name I don't know, so I'll put it on the screen down here somewhere to give her props. She was also pretty good as Sprite. I really appreciated her contribution as well. The one that was really interesting was Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos. I think he does a great job as Phastos, and on top of that, making him a gay character was a cool decision, I think. And that aspect of the movie, not just Phastos being gay, but also they take a lot of risks here. Past just making the Eternals the team, they take a lot of risk as far as like themes, ideas, scenes, things that we've never seen in a Marvel movie before, and they really take a chance on them to really make them bold, big, and be like, look, this is what we're doing. Like, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Like, that's how it's gonna go. Going back to Phastos, though, I loved his character, and I think the aspect of him being gay, while it wasn't like the main thing about his character, it still was like a nice thing to kind of add a level of humanity to him. That he's not just the tech guy. Like, he's got a family, he's got loved ones, and where his position is of where he's at, not only amongst humanity, but as an Eternal, like as one of these beings. Kamal Nanjiani is the same way. He also has a specific place he's at in both his personality, but also in his relationship to the world around him. And so getting to see that and see, you know, he's this superstar, more or less, is really cool and really interesting. But also, you know, you can understand where he's coming from as far as his ideas about the world and everything around him. And you know, the other characters also do a great job. I'll put their names up here because this is a very huge cast. There's a lot of characters, but and I will refer to them by their character names probably later on in this review. But Druig, Makari, Gilgamesh, like, they do a great job too. It's just one of those things where, because there's so many characters, not every character really gets a lot of time to shine. Like, Makari doesn't really have a lot of time to do a lot of things because she's not in the movie that much. I also wanted to note that even though Makari is yes, a deaf character and a character with a disability, while that aspect is cool, it doesn't add like anything extra to her character as far as her role in the plot. It's just something extra onto her character, much like Angelina Jolie's thing with the kind of Alzheimer's situation. So if you go into the movie knowing that, just know that it's not going to be really a thing about the plot as more as it's just a thing about the character. That's why I didn't bring it up when I initially recorded the video. But I just wanted to be known because I mentioned other people's things. So I wanted to make sure hers gets out there. Support more actors and actresses who are hearing impaired, vision impaired, so on and forth. Because they're awesome. Lauren Ridloff does a great job. And she's fantastic. Okay, on with the review. Druig is a big part of the plot, but he doesn't really get too much to do. after a certain point. Like, and that's the thing about the Eternals, is that there's so many of them. It's hard to manage them all. And when you look at it, this is the biggest self-contained team in the Marvel Universe so far. We've had the Avengers, yeah, but even then that term has kind of become a little loose, because people think like everyone who showed up in Avengers Endgame is considered an Avenger, and it's like, that's not true. The Avengers is a specific team, and then they team up with other people from time to time. So and then we have the Guardians, but the Guardians is pretty small. Like, the Eternals is easily the biggest team we've had so far that's self-contained. And so because of that, you have to divulge a lot of time to separate characters, but I think this movie balances them pretty well. It doesn't detract from the movie, and I don't feel like we're wasting time with any one character. It feels like we're getting to know these people, and it's actually really fun to see where each of them are in their points in their life, because they've all lived a millennia. Like, they know so much and have done so much. It's curious to see, like, okay, why'd they leave? Why are they in the place they're in now? And how has that affected them as a person now that they've lived amongst humans? So it's cool. Also, gotta mention Selma Hayek as well. While she also is not in the movie for very long, when she is there, she has a presence. She's pretty great as a character. I appreciated her being in this movie as well. Moving on to the plot a little bit, I think that's where the divisiveness kind of comes from in this movie. And I have to say it's mostly because of a couple reasons. Number one, this is establishing the cosmology of the Marvel Universe. And that's kind of scary. That's a thing, a big idea. Because once you establish cosmology, that adds a whole other layer of things that is going on in the Marvel Universe that a lot of people probably didn't want to know about. I mean, most people assume in every superhero universe there's a god and there's a devil, and yes, there's like other beings, but none of them are God. And this one is establishing, being like, no, these are gods. These are our gods. They created everything. So there you go. And when you do that, that can start to kind of make things a little divisive. For me personally, I am a huge comic book fan, so I knew this was coming a mile away. I knew the cosmology of the Marvel Universe and already knew that what the deal was, so it didn't bother me. But that's me. That I can't speak for someone else who they had an issue with that. The other thing too about the plot is that it kind of feels a little jumbled a little bit, and that's because we constantly go back and forth between the past and the present, mostly to explain how the Eternals have ended up where they are. Some of them are more specific flashbacks to certain characters, but other ones are specific to the team in general and how they arrived on our planet, how they integrated their influence, all types of stuff. So because of that, like, it makes the movie, for me personally, it felt like at times the pacing was off. It caught itself back near the end and the beginning, but in that like a little middle part, it just kind of felt like it kind of go back and forth, and it got a little jumbled, especially because some flashbacks were all of like 2 minutes, or maybe even less than that. And so it's like, I feel like you could have just done this story linearly, having it start when they first arrive, going through the history of all the things they've experienced through history, and then having us be at the present. And that would have probably made things feel a little more well structured, that sort of thing. That being said, though, another aspect of the plot that felt very weak is the villain. Mostly because this movie don't really have one. I mean, there's antagonists, for sure, but there's no clear, like, this person's the bad guy, this person's the good... Well, the Eternals are the good guys. But there's no clear, like, this is the person we should be rooting against. And so for a lot of time in the movie, they tried to establish this mystery of what's going on, but the mystery is solved halfway through, and so that other half you would expect there to be like, okay, well, now we have to stop this person, but the person we're trying to stop is so larger than life and not even really like a force they have to battle as much as it's more just something they have to stop. It can feel like there's the stakes aren't, really relatable. That's the best word to describe it. Because when you think about all the other Marvel movies, every Marvel movie has a very relatable sense of what the problem is, how do we solve it. When you look at Avengers Endgame, Thanos is a big dude. It's like, okay, got it. We have to go stop that guy from destroying half of humanity. When it comes to Black Panther, it's like, oh, Killmonger is the problem. We got to stop that dude from hurting people and destroying Wakanda, And it's like, when you have that very clear, relatable stakes, it makes it easier for the audience to understand like what's going on and why they should care. With the Eternals, the problem is that the main issue and conflict is so grand in scope that it's not very relatable. And because it's not very relatable, you kind of check out. I mean, it's, without getting into spoilers of what it is and what the issue is, it's not very clear. The audience might just check out, to be quite honest. And they try to be very like, hey, like, here's this force that they have to battle on top of the thing they're trying to do. But the thing is that this character, like, you don't feel like they're the bad guy as much as it's just like, oh, I guess we have to have something to punch. And while the fight is cool and the characters using their powers is really cool to see, it just didn't feel the same as like doing what Marvel normally does. Now, that being said, again, this is just me trying to discern why certain people didn't really like this movie. Me personally, though, I think it was bold for them to try that, and that leads me into my discussion of them trying things. And I'm gonna get into like minor spoilers here, but nothing that like really hurts the movie. Just stuff that I noticed that I was like, oh, this is interesting. Because there's a lot of things a lot of scenes in this movie that I'm like, I didn't think Disney would allow Marvel to do that. For example, there's like Fastos playing a gay character. You see him kiss his husband, and he refers to him as his husband. Like, it's not a thing that Disney often does, where they have a gay character, but at most you'll see them maybe hold hands with a guy or anything like that. And I say guy specifically because, when it comes to gay culture, when it comes to gay men, it's harder to see more representation in these mainstream movies than it is to see gay women. So it's cool to see Marvel be like, no, this is a gay man. We're making it very clear. He is kissing a man on the lips. It's real. And that was bold. I thought that was bold, considering that Disney's now had how many? This is our first ever gay character. So kudos to you. Also, a sex scene was in this movie. Granted, it's not too graphic or anything like that, so you can still bring your kids to watch this movie. But it was a thing where I'm like, people don't have sex in the Marvel Universe according to these movies. Like, we never see anybody like naked on top of each other. Like, that just don't happen. So it's like, this movie is clearly trying to be like, no. We're taking it seriously. This is a serious movie, and we're not sugarcoating anything. We're letting you know what we're doing and how we're doing it. Flat out. So that was also interesting. Thirdly, this movie starts out with text. And the text is to establish the cosmology factor of this movie. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to piss some people off. Because I know there's some people already who are like, they're either devout Christian, devout Muslim, what have you. And they feel that, when they're watching these Marvel movies, that the God they prescribe to is the God of this universe. And this movie is telling you that's completely false. These deities are. These are the people who've made everything and made the universe. That is how that works. And I feel like that'll turn some people off, because there are some people who have related some of these stories to Christianity and mythology and everything else. And so to have this movie come out to kind of say not only are you wrong, but this is the answer. And it's something that is so fictional and so made up that it could turn some people off from this movie. And maybe that's half of where the divisiveness comes from. Me personally, I think it's bold because at the end of the day, this is a fictional universe. It's not our world. So I am cool with them using their own mythology, making up their own mythology, their own explanation of how things are and why things are, because it's not the real world. Like, this is a fictional tale. You kind of just got to roll with the punches. And the more we find out about this universe, the more we'll get some more answers. So I like it. Also, can't finish this review not talking about the cinematography in this movie. The cinematography in this film is immaculate. It is so good. Not only in the, the stuff that requires CG, because that stuff looks good and everything like that, but the stuff that is just them just in scenes, hanging out in the desert, and bigger stuff when we get to that Bollywood scene with Kingo. It's just incredible. All the characters look fantastic. All of the shots looked fantastic. The way they put the shots up against all the characters and use their silhouettes and other things, it looked immaculate. Fantastic job on the cinematography. Kudos to you. And kudos to the Chloe Zhao's directing. Also good as well. Overall, what do I think about this movie? I think it's pretty great. Do I think it's like my favorite Marvel movie? No. Will I watch it again? If I'm in the mood, I feel like this is one of the slower Marvel films that if I wanted to put this on to really think, about the moral quandaries of what my responsibility would be if I lived like over 1 million years, that is what I would use this for. This is definitely a Marvel movie in the general sense, but when you really break down to the minute details, this movie is very unique in the Marvel universe right now. There's no other movie like it. It requires a lot of thought and processing to understand and to grasp, compared to something like a Thor Ragnarok, where you don't have to think at all. It's just dumb fun, and that makes that movie great. And so it's like, I think what makes this movie great is its differences from the other films, and I highly advise that you give it a shot. If you were on the fence when you saw the trailers, or you're on the fence from the Rotten Tomatoes score, go watch it for yourself. Get an idea of your own idea of if you're gonna love this movie, because it really is that type of film that it is not gonna be for everybody, but I can say that it is, if you're willing to give it a chance and willing to just let it kind of be what it is, you might find enjoyment out of this movie despite what people think. And that's not a bad thing, like, at all. If I had to give this a grade, I would give it a B+. I think still the villain thing is the main issue for me, and the pacing. I think both those things could have used more work, and really just the pacing wise, it's really just the rearranging of the flashbacks, but the villain part still needed work. And I get that, it's just like Black Widow. Like, the Eternals, the characters don't really have villains, they don't really have like a set, this is our main arch nemesis. So it's hard to kind of establish a villain for them to fight, because they don't have one. So you kind of got to just roll with what you got and what you know of the Eternals and their characters and the deviants and all that stuff. And so that's what they have to work with. But hopefully, if they do another Eternals movie, they'll take what they've already started with from here and grow on that and make it bigger, better, and more exciting. So I'm excited to see where the Marvel Universe goes from here. Also, if you do want to know, there is 2 post-credit scenes. So if you're gonna go see it in theaters, sit down for the 2 scenes. Don't just get up after the first one, because there is a second one at the very end that you definitely want to catch. So overall, those are my thoughts. Comment down below if you liked the movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What type of things would you like to see from Marvel going forward, knowing that they're now willing to give a shot to something like the Eternals, if you're a comic book fan, or if not? Let me know, And also, if you want to catch more content here at The First Ones to Die, whether that be our podcast, gaming videos, vlog stuff, check us out on our YouTube channel. Subscribe. See when we're posting new stuff. Like our video. And favorite. And all the other things. But anyway, catch you guys later. Take care. And thanks for watching.